In this video, we're going to take a look at a concept called hybridization and how we can use this concept to explain various different molecular geometries that we see with molecules. So let's start out with the molecule methane here. So methane is one carbon with 4 hydrogens, and its Vesper shape is tetrahedral. And just reminding ourselves, each of these bond angles is 109.5 degrees. Now, if we were to take a look at this central carbon atom and we looked at just the second energy level part of its orbital diagram, it would have 2 electrons in a 2s orbital and 1 electron each in 2 of the 2p orbitals. So we have 2 unpaired electrons, and we have an orbital with 0 unpaired electrons. Now, we know that carbon forms 4 bonds, and we know that they're equal energy and equal length. And this, is coming from our evidence of the different shapes of our different molecules. However, orbitals, when orbitals overlap to form bonds, they're always with unpaired electrons. And so our orbital diagram actually suggests that we would only have 2 bonds and that we would have a different geometry than what we expect, right? Because this arrangement, in terms of our electron diagram, would not be able to produce 4 identical covalent bonds. So what is going on here, and how can we explain the geometry of methane? So in order for carbon to form 4 bonds of equal length, orbitals will mix together to form new hybrid orbitals. So this process is called hybridization. And hybridization only occurs when we have bonding. Okay? So in carbon, we can take these 2 electrons in a 2s orbital and the 2 electrons each in 2p orbitals. And so we want to create 4 bonds. Okay, 4 bonds is the goal of equal length and strength. And to do that, we need 4 hybrid orbitals because we would need 1 electron unpaired in each of the 4 different hybrid orbitals in order to create a geometry that has 4 bonds of equal length and strength. So we're going to take these 4 orbitals here and mix them together. So we're taking 1 of the s's and 1, 2, 3 of the p's to make sp3 hybrid orbitals. So the sp3 means we're taking 1s and we're taking 3 p orbitals and we're combining them together to make 4 sp3 hybrid orbitals. Now each one has 1 electron, unpaired electron in each orbital, which is now going to be able to create 4 bonds of equal length and strength. So then how does this overlap, and what does this look like with the Vesper shape in carbon? So we're saying carbon has 4 of these sp3 hybrid orbitals. And when these orbitals mix and combine, they make orbitals that kind of look like half of a p orbital. Okay? Remember, orbitals are just a mathematical model of densities where electrons can be found. And so we're taking a couple of functions, we're adding them together, and this is the resultant function that we get when we do that. And there would be 1 unpaired electron in each of these 4 hybrid orbitals. If we now overlay that with our Vesper shape, so let's just draw out our Vesper shape of methane again, then each of these hybrid orbitals, and maybe I'll draw this in a different color here, are emanating from our carbon to form our 4 bonds of equal length and strength. So this is how we can use hybridization to explain the geometry in methane. Now, what happens if we go to ethene? So ethene is a 2-carbon molecule. it has sigma bonds here between the carbons and the hydrogens. So all of those are sigma bonds. And then its double bond is made up of one sigma and one pi bond. And remember, a pi bond is a p orbital that is overlapping side to side, along with the end-to-end overlap for the sigma bond part of that double bond. So each carbon in this molecule has 3 sigma bonds and 1 pi bond. So we need hybrid orbitals again to be able to achieve this. So in order to do this, we're taking our orbital diagram that has 2 in the 2s and then single ones in 2 of the 2 p's. And because we now need to create end-to-end overlap or sigma bonds for 3, we're going to combine 3 of these orbitals. So we're going to combine the s and just 2 of the p's, and we're going to leave the other p separate. So we are now creating sp2 hybrid orbitals because we are taking one s and 2 p's and combining them together. And we're taking 3 of our electrons here, and those are going to create our sigma bonds. And then our one unpaired electron is left in this 2p orbital here. So why do we need to do this? Well, let's take a look at its structure, okay? So we're going to have 3 of these sp2 hybrid orbitals. So these are all sp2. Again, they have the same sort of shape. They kind of look like half of a p. And then we have 1 p orbital, and this has 1 unpaired electron in it as well. If we look at our molecule ethene and we look at its geometry, so we're just going to draw this out really simply here. We have our end-to-end overlap, so our sigma bonds here. We're going to have end-to-end overlap between these ones here and then these guys here. And then let's draw in our p orbital for each carbon. And we're going to get these side-to-side overlap happening here and here. So we're going to create 3 of our sigma bonds as well as 1 pi bond around each carbon. So remember, those p orbitals have to overlap side to side to form that pi bond. So again, this is how we can use hybridization to explain the bonding in ethene. Now let's go with one final example here. So we're going to look at ethyne, which is a carbon-carbon bonded with a triple bond. So each carbon has a sigma bond here and here, and then we have 2 pi bonds. So we have a sigma, and we have a sigma. So each carbon has 2 sigma bonds and 2 pi bonds. So again, we need to use hybridization to be able to explain it. So we need to create some hybrid orbitals in here. So looking at our diagram, we got our 2 electrons, 1, 2 there, and then 1 each in the p orbitals. Now for this one, each carbon just needs to create our end-to-end or sigma bonds overlap with 2 other things. So we need 2 hybrid orbitals. So we're going to take an s and just 1 of the p's and hybridize them to make sp hybrid orbitals. And then we're going to leave 2 of the p's alone. So again, we have 1 electron in each, but this is going to help us create the sigma bonds and the pi bonds. So what does this look like in terms of bonding in ethyne? Okay, so if we take a look, we got our sp hybrid orbitals, and we've got 2 of them for each carbon. And then we've got 2 p orbitals. Okay, so those are p's. So if we go with our carbon-carbon, and let's just draw the skeleton here. Looking at sigma bonds, each carbon's going to have these sp hybrid orbitals that are overlapping end to end. And then we also have p orbitals around each carbon. So I'm going to draw one there in green, and then maybe we'll draw the second one in yellow so we can kind of see that. So I'll draw that one there and then that one there. And that's going to create our sigma bonds, and then the greens are going to overlap side to side to create one pi bond, and the yellows are going to overlap side to side to create our other pi bond. So again, this is how our bonding is coming about to create our different molecular geometries. So I think one other point we really need to just emphasize here is that lone pairs are also found in hybrid orbitals. So if you have, say, for ammonia, we have a lone pair of electrons here, and they would also be found in a hybrid orbital. So in ammonia in particular, we have sp3 hybrid orbitals. 3 of them are forming sigma bonds, and then this last one here is occupying or has the lone pair of electrons occupying it. With water, again, it's based on the tetrahedral shape, so it's got 2 sp3 hybrid orbitals that are creating the sigma bonds, and then 2 of the sp3 hybrid orbitals have the lone pairs of electrons sitting in it. So lone pairs of electrons also do sit within these particular orbitals here. So that was a lot of information. It was a lot of like us trying to figure out, how hybridization works and how it can explain some of the different molecular geometries. And so let's condense it and summarize it together so that we can predict the type of hybridization for any possible molecular geometry. If you have 2 electron domains, remember that this is our linear shape. And so linear shapes will always do sp hybrid orbitals. And the way you can remember it is if you have 2 electron domains, you need to hybridize 2 different orbitals together. So it's going to create S2 sp hybrid orbitals, and then it'll have 2 p orbitals remaining. For 3 electron domain geometries, so this is our trigonal planar, but this could also be our bent shape because a lone pair can also occupy those hybrid orbitals. This is going to create 3 sp2 hybrid orbitals. So we're taking 1 s and 2 p's and creating 3 new hybrid orbitals with 1 p remaining left over. So you will see that in trigonal planar or bent shapes. And then finally, for 4 electron domains, this is our tetrahedral. This is also our trigonal pyramidal. And this is also our other bent shape, so the one with 2 lone pairs of electrons. This is always going to create 4 hybrid orbitals that are sp3 hybridized, and then there are no p's left over because we've used up all the p's here now. So we've got an s and we got 3 p's coming together to combine to form 4 new sp3 hybrid orbitals. So as long as you know the electron domain geometry, this hybridization will always stand, and it will always be the case. So you can predict hybridization for any molecule based on its electron domain and molecular geometries. So that was a lot, and that's it then for this video. We'll see you in the next one.